So I thought I would make a cheesecake and show everybody how I go about doing it, and hopefully the video turns out alright. It seems my camera's a little weird with shading, so anyway, right in there so far all I got is 3 blocks of cream cheese. It's room temperature, just makes it easier to mix around. Over here I've already done the crust because, well, I can, and I didn't want to, it has to cool a little bit. So basically it's 3 cups of graham cracker, half a cup of sugar, I don't know, about a quarter cup or so of melted butter. You want to put just enough melted butter in it when you're mixing it to kind of make it look like that kinetic sand stuff. You don't want it to be able to stick to your fingers when you squish it, but you want it to be able to at least stick together. Put it in there, lightly pack it down. If you pack it too hard, then when it's cooked, your crust is going to be like a frickin' rock, and you're going to need like a chipper to get through it. So just pack it lightly. Now, over here, stuff falling over. Just going to put my beater thing on there. I know not everybody has this kind of mixer, but it will work with just a hand mixer. I'm just lazy, and I got spoiled one year for Christmas. Someone bought it for me for a gift, so anyway. Oh shit, guess we gotta plug it in, eh? That kind of helps. Alright, I'll move this. So on the counter you can probably see the rest of the ingredients. Got 4 eggs, they're also room temperature. Got a cup and a half of sugar, which will be going in shortly. Got 1 cup of sour cream. It's like, I don't know, 14%. It's not low fat, nothing here. 4 tablespoons of flour and a dash of salt. If anyone wondering what a dash of salt is, it's 1/8 of a teaspoon. So it's a small amount. You got 2 teaspoons of lemon juice in there and 4 teaspoons of vanilla, and that's it. That's all the ingredients. So we're going to turn this on, let it kind of start breaking down the cheese a little bit. You don't want to do it really high. I try to keep it under like 4 or so. And what we're going to do is slowly add the sugar, because that needs to cream, or now this stage does take a few minutes. You want basically the sugar fully dissolved in that, but you don't want to be kicking up too much air either. Every once in a while you're going to have to scrape down the bottom of the bowl. This is where a hand mixer often comes in handy, because it's quicker than having to lift this thing up and knock everything off the paddles. But anyway, so you're going to want to cream this together. The easiest way to know when it's done, other than by its look, because it will change color somewhat, it gets lighter the more it's creamed together properly. But anyway, the easier way than that is to just feel it. If you can rub it and you're feeling grittiness, like you know, like sand between your fingers, and you know the sugar's not fully dissolved yet, so you got to do it some more. Normally it takes about 3 or 4 minutes. But again, this can be done with like just a regular hand mixer. You don't need anything like this. I know plenty of people I've showed this to, and they've just used a hand mixer. Not everybody has this KitchenAid stuff. And you really shouldn't be putting a paddle in there when you're using it, but I've gotten so used to doing it, and I haven't broke my hand yet or nothing, so we're doing good. Alright, scrape down the sides a bit more. And see, it's getting a little looser. I don't know if you can tell really on camera, because probably my camera angles are the shit. So. But anyway, see, it is getting, it's kind of getting a little lighter looking. More of a pale yellow. And in case you're wondering, This can absolutely be done the exact same way with gluten-free, or lactose-free cream cheese. As long as it's not low fat. You don't want low fat or no fat. It has to be just regular cream cheese and regular sour cream. In fact, you can even do it with Greek yogurt. I've done it several times using the same amount of sour cream as you do with this, as with Greek yogurt though. And then that way you can kind of change the taste a little bit. Like if you want something like more of a, say you're doing like a strawberry cheesecake, you could get strawberry Greek yogurt and then put that in rather than the sour cream. So it gives a little bit more of a strawberry flavor into the base of the cake. But sour cream is what traditionally it is. That's what gives it that little bit of a tang. But again, I have done it with Greek yogurt, and plenty of times it's never failed me. You don't want anything fat-free. Fat-free will not work at all. Okay, so let's take a look and feel this. Now see there, I can't feel a single bit of sugar in that. There's no grittiness or anything. So that would tell me that stage is done. Now, you don't want to whip a lot of air into this. If you put a lot of air into this batter, it will crack. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It has to be mixed well, but not whipped or overdone, because you don't want air unless you don't care about the cracks. If you're covering it up with certain toppings, like, you know, if it was a fruit topping or something that you could get away with covering the cracks, it might not be so bad. But other toppings like ganaches or like a caramel or something, it's just going to go right into the crack, and if you might be able to fill them with toppings, but it's not often the prettiest. I mean, it's not going to affect the eating. I don't think. It still tastes the same. It just doesn't look as pretty. And I will show you one little trick that I'll get to in a few minutes that most recipes will not even tell you about. Yeah, but it's something I've learned quite a few years ago cooking. So anyway, so that's mixed in there. So now what we're going to do is put in the sour cream. Okay, you guys hold on for 1 second. Just mix this some more. Sour cream's in now. Oh, fingers in the way. So we got our sour cream in there now doing its thing. Now what we're going to do is let that mix for a few minutes. Lift it up, give it a scrape down. Yes, I definitely need to get a tripod. Note to self, look for a tripod on Amazon for phone. Or frickin' something to glue it to my forehead, maybe. Yeah, I guess I'll glue it to my forehead. That might work too. Alright, now that's mixed in there good enough. Now we will add in the flour and a dash of salt. Now this has got to mix in. Make sure this part's definitely mixed thoroughly. You want that flour like very well mixed within the whole batter. Make sure you scrape down your beaters if you happen to use like beaters for it, or like a hand beater, to make sure that there's no flour clumps or nothing stuck to it, because that's pretty much the only thickener that goes in this, is that little bit of flour. So if it's not mixed in there properly, it will cause issues. So just make sure that you mix it well. Scrape down the sides again. Give it a little bit more of a mixing. Now, while that's going doing its thing, we will add the vanilla and lemon. Kind of want to add this a little slow too, just to let it mix in so it doesn't puddle up too much. Not that it matters, it just means you might have to mix it more. I tend to spread it around. Now let that mix in. Give it another scraping down. This is where sometimes the hand mixer comes in handy, because if you're using a metal bowl, you can pretty much scrape it as you go, because you can run the beaters along the edge of the bowl or along the sides of the bowl, and it should pull up everything anyway. But of course, that is if you don't have anyone in your family that's gonna frickin' scream at you for making lots of noise when you're cooking. But I suppose on the bonus, if you're making lots of noise and they're screaming at you, you can just say, well, you didn't hear them because you were making lots of noise. So, I mean, that's a bonus. Alright, last thing to go in are the eggs. Now, eggs eggs have to be put in one at a time, and pretty much just to the point where they're mixed. You don't want to whip these in or nothing. So, and luckily I can do eggs with one hand, so I can still hold the bowl thing until. Okay, see, so that's just slowly getting mixed in there. Once the yolk kind of just goes away, then we're going to slowly add the other one. I don't know why this frickin' phone camera keeps getting dull. It's like it adjusts for light or something, but I'm not sure how to shut the damn thing off. So, egg number 2. Egg number 3. I wouldn't necessarily suggest cracking your eggs over the bowl unless you actually are somewhat able to. Sometimes, you know, you crack an egg and it's bad. Or you can crack it and not do it well and you get a big chunk of shell or something in there. You really don't have a chance to reach for it if you happen to do that, because, you know, that beater is going to break your finger when you stick it in there. And chances are the shell's going to sink. However, I've cracked about 50,000 eggs in my life, so I'm comfortable with the fact that I know how to crack them without really. It's very often that or very rare that I get a shell or something like that in the eggs, or in whatever I'm making. I mean, just probably because I've cracked so many damn eggs. Anyway, so that's mixed. So, as you can see, we have the base batter now. So, this here will now go into the springform pan. think it's a 9-inch. I will then, we'll be cooking it, but I'm not going to keep the video running for the next hour and a bit while it's cooking, but I will tell you in a second what I'm doing. So, I got my little helper down there waiting to help clean up. She likes to lick the batter off the beater. When I make whipped cream, they all are out here looking for the whipper. Here's Zoe. You want some? Is it Zoe approved? Oh, look. It's Zoe approved. And don't worry, I do wash this before I use it again. For all those people out there going, oh my God, you let your dogs lick it. This is Chevy. He's our resident pit bull. That's the biggest suck in the world. This dog wouldn't even bite a fly. You almost have to put treats in his mouth because he's so gentle. He won't just take it from you. It's like you're giving him communion or something, the way he acts, because he just sits there and kind of opens his mouth and lets you put it in his mouth. Okay, so anyway, this here is now going to be put in that pan. The stove is set at 325. It's going to cook for at least, I normally go between about 70 minutes. I find with my stove that's about the right time. Probably anywhere from 65 to 80 minutes for some people. You basically are going to want to, I'll show you the top when it's done, but it will rise a bit, and then it won't necessarily look like it's cooked inside because it will be jiggly still, but it is. It's just the way it looks when it's cooked now. Anyway, this is the trick I'm going to tell you about that they don't tell you about, at least in most recipes. I've never seen any online or anything like that mention this. You want to take boiling water. Has to be boiling. I just boiled this in the thing. Put it in a pan under where the cake is going to go. See? Pan, boiling water. Why has it got to be boiling? Because if it's not boiling, it won't get hot enough in the stove to create steam. It has to be at least boiling first, so then the stove can keep it at that temperature to produce the steam. Why the steam? Well, it stops the cake from cracking. You want this cake cooked very slowly in a very moist environment. So you will want the water in there. Not putting the water in there will just more than likely cause your cake to crack. Doesn't always, but there's a very good chance that it will. Okay, let me put you down for a second so I can scrape this out. Oh, here, maybe we'll push that way and you'll be able to see. Oh, guess not. I don't know. Righty then. So, I don't know if the camera somehow cut out the last time, or just before I put the cake in. But anyway, the cake's been in there now for like 70 minutes, so it's... let me see. See how it's like lifted a little bit in the center? Now, that's not quite done, so I'm going to leave this another 10 minutes or so. That's why I said sometimes it takes a little longer, sometimes not. But we're going to leave that for another 10 minutes, and then once that time's done, what you have to do, which I probably will, I'll record later when I get the toppings and that to go on top. But after that's cooked, so once it's risen and a little bit more solid in the center, you have to shut the stove off, but don't take the cake out. Just shut the stove off and maybe stick a towel or something in the crack, like so it opens up a little bit. You want the heat to come out a little. You don't want it to come out fast though. This has to cool very slowly. Often I'll do this in the evening, and I'll let the cake sit in the oven all night. It won't hurt it to let it cool for several hours. So I will be back once it's cooked and I'm ready to put the toppings and everything on it. Okie doke, we're back. we are going to make the whipped cream and the glaze. It's going to be a peach cheesecake. So what I did was I basically, I don't know, sliced 4 or 5 peaches. They're in there, see? I coated them with some sugar, a little bit, like a pinch of salt or so. And I let them sit in the colander there for a while. They basically dripped out all kinds of juice. So the glaze calls for gelatin. Normally gelatin you use water to mix with, so I am just going to use the juice from the peaches because it's going to taste better. In this pot is a 1/4 cup of the peach juice, 1 teaspoon of honey, liquid honey, and 1 teaspoon of lemon juice. And over here is the 1/4 cup of the juice, and then just 1 packet of gelatin. You let that kind of bloom for a little bit, and that's why it's fucking phone. I hate this phone. It's a little kind of bumpy looking, I suppose. I don't know if you can notice it, but it kind of blooms. It just expands. It's like yeast almost. So you might be able to see the texture on that now. Anyway, so we're going to let that come to a boil, which shouldn't take long, and I am going to pour in for the whipped cream. Little hint, when you're making whipped cream, use a metal bowl and whisk. Put them in the freezer for a good 20 or 30 minutes before you whip them, because the coldness of the bowl and the whisk will help the whipped cream whip. Okay, so once this comes to a boil right here in a minute, I'm going to mix it with that stuff over there, and then it will just need to cool for 20 or 30 minutes anyway before you can really do anything with it. The cake is kind of still in the oven. I didn't take it out yet. I will after this. It's probably still a little early to take it out, but it shouldn't hurt. Alright, so we're up to a boil. Let's move this before it spills somewhere and frickin' goes all over the place. Alright, well that smells good. Lots of peachy smell. Alright, so that can go in the bowl. Oh, we're steamed right out now. Now we gotta stir this in until it all dissolves. It takes a couple minutes to dissolve it all. So we'll keep stirring it. Squish up anything that might look big. And this here is going to be the fruit glaze for the top of the cheesecake once I get the fruit laid out on it. I don't know if I'll get to that right now, because the cake's still probably too warm and I like to make sure the cake's nice and cold. But I figured I'd show you these parts, because all I plan on doing is taking the fruit and laying it out in like a sunburst pattern, sort of from the center out. Then I'll glaze it. I'll have my whipped cream on the edges, and the whipped cream is just heavy cream. It's the 35% whipping cream and some powdered sugar and a special kind of ingredient that I can't I won't tell you. It's nothing bad. It's just an ingredient that I use to stabilize the whipped cream. And I just don't want it to be public knowledge, because it took me a little while to kind of figure it out on my own, and that's my little bit of a trademark, I imagine. It's the one thing I do with my cheesecakes that other people don't do, and they can't figure it out. So, but you can definitely look up on Google or whatever how to stabilize whipped cream. They'll recommend using gelatin. You use a gelatin method. Usually it's, you set it in cold water, let it bloom. Add a little, maybe, I don't know if you add hot water to for the whipped cream, but you would use gelatin for it. I just don't personally like gelatin in whipped cream, so I don't use gelatin. I use something else. Oh, alright, that looks like it's pretty well dissolved. So, give it a good mix. We'll leave that over here for a little bit. Let that cool for a little. This is all emptied. That can go there. I'm going to need more vanilla. Alright, now, this is the fun part. Let's see if I don't make a mess. Because this gets messy sometimes when it's too quick. Loud noises. It's getting loud. This as well can also be made with hand mixers. Use a deep bowl because as you can see a lot of splatter goes around, and trust me, you'll know if your bowl's too full because it'll end up everywhere. One second, quick, I need to get a teaspoon of vanilla. Showing you everywhere else. Let's see. Oh. Get you over here. Put the teaspoon of vanilla in. Alright. There goes the vanilla. And we are going to start adding the sugar. I'll put half of it in. Oh, fuck it. I'll just put it in. Alright, now start this off slow just to get the sugar going in a little bit. Now we're going to whip it until it's done, which won't take long. It was almost close to done when I stopped it. But that will whip, and then once that's done, I will put it in the fridge so it can stay cold, and then use it later to decorate the cake. Let's see. Oh, let go. Why aren't you letting go? There. Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty stiff peak. I still hate this phone because my color is way off. It's so damn dark and I don't know why. But there you go. Now you have seen the process I go through to make my cake. Oh, dogs heard me banging in the bowl, so they're going to want the same. Here's Zoe. You want some? Come on, Arizona. Come here. You come get some too. Zoe, be nice. Arizona. That's Arizona. She's about Zoe's age and size. Just kind of mixed. There's Chevy again, Mr. Tongue. He gets right in there. And here's Miss Zoe. Zoe and Arizona sometimes have some issues, so. But anyway, that's it. And yes, I will again wash my utensil after the dogs are done with it. I'll show you the cake later when it's done.